In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the tech zone.
Welcome back to the show. Paul Amadeus Lane, third and final segment of the show. We're dedicating this show to streaming content, the technology of streaming content, just celebrating the fact that we have this, that we're able to catch up on content, experiencing new shows that's not on the network. Isn't it nice to have this technology? Let's celebrate it today. I nominate this day National Streaming Day. I said it. It's an edict because I am the czar of technology, so I can't do that. Isn't that right, Sean? This segment right here, I want to share with you a show that touches my mind, touches my heart. I am heavy into time travel. I love Quantum Leap. I loved some of the other shows out there where you went back in time, quantum physics, you name it. And this show right here really tackles it in a way, kind of like how Quantum Leap did back in the late 80s and early 90s. When it comes to time traveling and going back in time, certain minorities and certain gender didn't have it so good, didn't have it so great. And sometimes we say, well, I want to go back in time. If I went back in time, I would do this, I would do that. But this show deals with it. I'm talking about NBC's Timeless. If you haven't watched this show, please use streaming content and catch up. Right now, they're in the middle, I believe, season 2. They're on hiatus right now, so please catch up and watch. But this show deals with various issues going back in time, Nazi Germany, this country when they had segregation, when they had a wide gender gap. Some feel that gap hasn't closed much. But when you look at the way this show is put together, it really gives it a fresh perspective on what would happen if we did time travel. Had an opportunity to catch up with 3 of the stars of the show. First up, had a chance to chat with Malcolm Barrett. Now, Malcolm's funny. You know, in journalism, sometimes we make mistakes when we're interviewing. We forget names. We give people different names. That's what happened with this interview right here. Again, you may hear reference to WonderCon. I'm sorry. Don't be alarmed. I want to share this content to make sure everybody was able to witness this coverage that we did. But check out the fun I had with Malcolm Barrett. He plays Rufus Carlin. Yeah, check it out. And for Timeless, and I'm with Malcolm Barrett.
I'm out.
Malcolm, I'm sorry, man. Malcolm, I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
Too far away.
I'm so sorry.
Here. It's fine.
Malcolm, your character Rufus.
Yes.
One thing I really appreciate about your character is when you go back in time and you witness prejudice.
Yes.
I love the way that your character really deals with that situation, being in the millennium.
Yeah.
And talk about just playing that role.
Well, that was one of the things that attracted me to the role in the first place, was dealing so honestly with race and prejudice throughout history. You know, that's literally in the very first episode. And so it's also one of those conceits that I think is, I think most people of color are aware of, is the fact that it would be more difficult for people of color and women to travel into the past. This is why it's always weird when white folks are like, what time period would you go back to? I'm like, nothing before like Thriller. And so that's been like the joy of doing this, is be able to see the flaws and the greatness of history and to be included. I'm a big sci-fi fan, but rarely are people of color included in that, because I think a lot of writers are afraid to deal with it, particularly white writers are afraid to deal with what are those barriers and obstacles and how does that make a story. And at the end of the day, telling an original story and telling a story of people who are overcoming boundaries are the most interesting stories.
And what I love about your character too is that how you and Gia interact.
Yeah.
And Mason, Mason was kind of like your mentor.
Yeah.
But now you can't trust him because he's a buster.
Yeah.
So how is that going to play out in season 2, if you can tell us?
I think both of those relationships really evolve. Me and Rufus and Gia are now established a little bit more as a couple, and they're sort of having to grow after that. And now the fact that she's having these visions as a result of being the fourth person in the time machine, I think is really going to test their relationship, their trust, as well as really having a greater effect on the time team. The same thing for Patterson, who plays Connor Mason. I became a big fan of him watching his work from The Leftovers, and he's had a long career, Rose Shakespeare Company. And so when I learned that he'd be a sort of mentor or father figure, I was elated. You know, we have a very similar process when it comes down to the bare bones of the work. And so it's very interesting to see him evolve and our relationship evolve, because we did become more of a father-son, and I think we sort of explore that a lot more in the second season, particularly because Connor is stripped down, and really the entire time team is stripped down and forced to be more of who they are inside and discover what are the things that make them important, that aren't just the money and the surroundings and the comfortability. And I think Connor gets exposed for that and has to reveal a bigger part of him, and because of that, Connor and Rufus's relationship changes and evolves, and you see a little bit more of how they are, really care for each other and really love each other.
Well, Malcolm, it's great catching up with you. We're looking forward to the rest of season 2. And you talked about thrillers, so can you go out and do like a little thriller move for us, or?
That's it. That's all you get. That's all you get from
Malcolm. Great talking to you, my friend.
Great talking to you,
all right,
man. Have a good one. Thanks.
Have a good one. Thanks. All right. I have a lot of fun when I interview folks out there. I mean, I just put it out. I'm just myself. I'm not a stuffed shirt. Be like, hey, blah, 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 blah. No, I have fun. And I make people feel comfortable. Sometimes I'm uncomfortable when I mispronounce their name. Yeah. Sometimes I do that. But Malcolm talked about Patterson Joseph's character. We're going to talk to Patterson Joseph, who plays Connor Mason. We're going to talk to him later on. He and I had some fun too. But also got a chance to chat with Sakina Jaffrey. She plays Denise Christopher in Timeless. Her character has changed from just that that supervisor you just can't stand to now being like one of the coolest people you can hang out with and go pound a beer with. Well, her character is like that, and I had a chance to chat with her. Now, as we look at your character this season, we noticed that you're kind of like the, should I say, voice of reason on the team? Mm-hmm. And talk about that transition from season 1 to season 2.
Well, in season 1, I think it was we had the terrorists, we had Garcia Flynn, and that was the main objective, I think, in the first episode. I said, you've got to kill Garcia Flynn, and you've got to bring the lifeboat back. So now that the lifeboat is we have a lifeboat. This year, what happened, as you saw at the end of last season, was Mason Industries exploded. Rittenhouse had it, destroyed it, and I, as the mama bear of the production, had to take all my little bears and get us into a safe place. So we went into the bunker. I think that creates a different dynamic with all of the characters this year, particularly because I am there to protect them. I think I feel responsible. I mean, as anybody who works for Homeland Security would, you feel responsible for the people working for you. But I also feel responsible that I chose this team. I put it together. I put together the historian, the techie, the army dude, and I think I take that responsibility really. I take the responsibility very seriously, and I think this year there are a lot of people don't want to be in the bunker. They're feeling oppressed for a lot of different reasons. They have loved ones they want to go out and connect with, and I have to say, look, we cannot do that right now. It's not safe. I have to keep you safe. So I think I kind of represent for the show the sense that we're a family, and I'm going to do anything to keep them safe.
And let's talk about the Garcia Flynn dynamic.
Yeah.
You and Flynn really can't stand each other.
No.
Could that change later on in the season?
Or you know what? I think you'll see different people in the bunker, and I think it's I do it grudgingly, but there is a change in that relationship for sure.
Now, if you could take the time ship anywhere, where would you take the time ship?
Now, asking me now. Now I got to ask a different, and I got to think about this. you know what? Every aspect of history has been so interesting. I've talked about going to, living in a place where the Creek Indians were, but honestly, I think we live in a country of immigrants, so any period when there's been mass immigration, I think is a fascinating time. Because for me, to look at any immigrant, I think you have to be a superhero. Talking about WonderCon, you have to be a superhero to have come here. So those moments in history when we allowed the most immigrants in would be an interesting moment for me. And I bet we'd find so many superheroes to talk about.
And speaking of history, we're in a unique time that we're living in history right now.
We're not at the march right now, and I'm really happy to be at WonderCon, but I'm supporting all those marchers. My husband's a journalist. He writes about politics. He's there, and I wish I was there with all of them.
Well, we appreciate what you do and how you are really being an inspiration for ones out there in the industry, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Paul.
And
really appreciate
enjoyed my chat with Sakina Jaffrey. Loved the way she opened up just about the time in which we're living in. If she can go back in time, what time would she go back in? One thing I really love about the show is just the diversity of the show. This is what we see in our own neighborhoods. If we don't, you'll probably be seeing it soon. I'll tell you my story. When I was born in Compton, but when I was about 2 years old, my father moved us to North Long Beach, California. And we were about one of two African-American families in our neighborhood. And by the time I got to junior high, the neighborhood became more diverse, and I grew up with some of my closest associates were ones who weren't even African American. We learned to love each other. We learned to tolerate each other. We knew our differences, but that didn't care. And the show really kind of shows that. We all just get along. That's what it is. And I really appreciate that. She talked about her husband, Francis Wilkinson. Yes, he's a Bloomberg journalist. Check out some of his writings. Really make you think. Really make you think. All right. Malcolm talked about, I'm going to call him Marcus. Malcolm talked about Patterson Joseph, who plays Connor Mason. Well, I had a chance to have some fun with him. See, I do my research before I interview someone, and I already knew that Joseph Patterson is a Shakespearean actor. So, me having some fun, I wanted to joke around with him about Shakespeare, and he tried to throw me off because he thought I was stereotyping him, but check it out at the end. Definitely, you're definitely gonna get a blast out of this.
One thing I really appreciate about your character going into this season is that you really seem to be kind of, I don't want to say conflicted, but you want to stick with the team and what they're doing, but there are some slight reservations. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. I mean, look, the guy's got an ego. I don't think you become a multi-billionaire without having a bit of an ego. He has lost everything. By the time we get to the beginning of season 2, he's not only lost his actual place of work, the thing he built, it's been destroyed and blown up, but the people he hired, who, as we can see with Gia and Rufus, he doesn't just hire people because they're good, he hires them because they're geniuses, but they're also really great people. And Anthony, Emma even, these are all people he hired when they were young, and here he is losing everything. So I think for Paul Mason, it's starting from scratch again. It's difficult for him. So I guess the season for him is this is all brand new. For him, it's all about how do I find myself again, without the riches, without the power, without the big limousine and the driver. How do I find who I really am? So that's his journey through season 2.
And when we noticed when it came to Rufus and yours relationship last season, it kind of was fractured. This season, will we see that closeness again, or are you guys still trying to heal the wounds that was caused in the first season?
Yeah, one of the problems with last season, Mason last season, is just wasn't himself. He just wasn't himself because he was always hiding, always trying to play a game. This season we get both what Connor is like underneath and what Rufus and Connor's relationship is like outside of that game playing that they were doing last time. it deepens. It's a very tricky relationship, father and son almost, and the father has let the son down because I didn't help him enough quickly enough before he got shot by Al Capone, if we remember that episode. So there's a sense of guilt, and whenever there's that, you know what it's like, whenever there's a father-son guilt thing, sometimes that communication is very tricky until you get to talk with each other, and they get to do that. They get to really connect with each other a little later.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to the rest of season 2, and have we not heard the chimes at midnight?
See, I love the fact that he just thinks, because I'm British and I'm an actor, I'm going to know a bit of Shakespeare. I don't know Shakespeare just off the top of my head, all right?
No, I read your Wikipedia, and I know you did Shakespeare.
I did. But the Chimes of Midnight, all I know is that that's John Falstaff, Henry IV, parts 1 and 2, Henry V, and the Merry Wives of Windsor. This character's to be found. And you have a sort of Falstaffian air about you. You're a big man, and you're very commanding, and you're also very funny. So good Falstaff, if anybody wants to cast somebody.
Yes, great talking to you, my friend.
Good to talk to you, Paul.
All right, Connor. Connor Mason, played by Patterson Joseph, and I had some fun at the end. You thought I was stereotyping because I know I didn't did my Wikipedia. I did my homework. Now, again, we're talking about streaming content on this edition of the Tech Zone. Technology exists so that we can catch up on some of these great shows. Now, right now, this show is in limbo. NBC has not come out with an official statement as of this morning. But do me a favor, check out this show. You're going to love it. I mean, just the cast is amazing. The writing is amazing. It's really good TV. It's not like these reality shows. Now, if reality shows is your thing, that's you. I know my producer, Christina Benjamin, she loves her reality shows. But I'm telling you, this show right here gets you thinking, travel back in time, meet some historical figures out there, and they really dive into their characters of what they may have been if we would have been alive at that time to see these ones. I mean, just amazing. Hey, well, have we not heard the chimes of midnight? Parting is such sweet sorrow. It's time for me to get out of here. And get ready for E3. E3 is next week. Got some special programming for that. You don't want to miss that. I have to get out of here because Sean gets on my case about the show being too long. But until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Remember, connect with me, PaulAmadeusLane.com. You can catch up on all the episodes. Please like, share, retweet. We love you. Take care.
In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the Tech Zone.